Hello guys, welcome back to Movie Reviews. In this episode we're looking at Crybaby from 1990, directed by John Waters. So, first film of John Waters I've ever seen, really. I knew about John Waters for quite a number of years, really, just, in terms of like some of his popular film, or well-known films, really. Hairspray springs to mind instantly because I remember knowing about Hairspray for a good number of years, probably since the film version with John Travolta came out. And actually find out that is actually a remake of a film from 1988 as well, which is pretty interesting. Very interesting, of course. I know about his collaborations with Divine, of course. I do actually own a 7-inch single to do with Divine. Unfortunately, I think it's I forgot what it's called. It's a cover. It's a cover. It is. I think it's like some 60s song, which is like it's more like an 80s disco record, I think. So that's my sort of introduction to Divine comes from there, really. That song that she did. Obviously, he did Pink Flamingos, which is sort of a sort of one of those X-ray classics, if you know what I mean, because of how disgusting it is, how out there it was at the time, really. Because it was from 1972. So, and it's like a core classic, very much in its own right, and everything else. This film in particular is sort of the same. This is, of course, Crybaby. Stars Johnny Depp, Amy Lockhart. You've got Iggy Pop as well. You've got a small appearance of Willem Dafoe as well in this film. And porn actress Tracy Lords as well. Fair enough. Yes, so bit of an interest. It's a bit of a camp film. This is. It's set in Baltimore in the 1950s. You've got Crybaby played by Johnny Depp, who's one of those bit of a greaser, very much, again, the sort of juvenile delinquent greaser, of course. And he falls for a square. I forgot the name of the character, but Amy Lockhart's character. And she's very smitten by him, of course. He thinks, I want to be with him, just escape from everything else. Being a square, you're nicely dressed, you go to like meetings and stuff. It's just like, and like have dominating parents and stuff. And she wants to be free from that, really. Have a reckless life, enjoy everything else that has to offer, really, and what Crybaby has got, really. And so far, it's all goes like it's a love story between these two, and it sort of goes on from there. It has sort of a musical element. It does, really, in this one. It does a musical, of course, because you have Johnny Depp singing, of course. Iggy Pop's in there, even though he doesn't sing at all in the film. He's just there, more of a sort of like a familiar face, comic relief type character, really, which he's pretty good, actually. I don't, Iggy Pop's film performances are actually interesting. They are, if you've ever seen some of them, really. This one in particular, and yeah, pretty interesting, of course. There was a behind the scenes thing, of course, between Johnny Depp and Tracy Lords. Actually found out recently in a documentary with intercut footage of a docudrama, very much about to do with of course, with Tracy Lords and Johnny Depp, and she walked out on him, before they were going to have like sexual intercourse or something like that. And so he briefly dated her, but that moment in particular, she just walked out on him, really. I don't know if that's true or not. That might, it just depends, really, with that sort of thing, because it might be, with docudrama sometimes it could be make believe or something, but yeah, bit strange, really. In terms of everything else, the whole story as well, like Crybaby gets jailed due to the reckless behavior because of the Squares. The Squares just decide to trash the this sort of jamboree party that Crybaby and his family are doing, actually, in their home turf, and it is destroy Crybaby's prize motorcycle, and of course decide again goes call on the punch up, and he gets arrested. He Lockhart's character and him get separated. He gets to jail and plans his escape along with with his main friends, really, of course. forgot the people's name, but one of them I forgot the name, of course, but she's very, very ugly face. Oh my god! I mean, because it's a John Waters film, you can probably see. You know, it's, if it's a homage to Divine, who knows? It could be. I don't know. But it's a pretty bonkers film. When you get to the third act, of course, towards the end of the film, it's quite bonkers in a way. Really, you know, they're trying to get out. You know, steal a helicopter, head into this whole prison, of course, for to get Crybaby. You know, and it's quite ridiculous in place. Again, because consider who the person really is who's managed the film, really. But overall, I think in particular it's a decent little flick. It's a popcorn movie, but it's actually pretty fun. If you want something like interesting, like a little bit of a feel-good movie, this is sort of like this sort of thing, really. If it's a rainy day, just put this on and you think you might have a good time with it. And Johnny Depp's pretty good as well, actually, because it's his early role, because the same time he did Edward Scissorhands, he did. So, kind of like his appearance in Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, and bits and pieces, really. So, it's pretty worth checking out, actually. You know, because you've also the other behind the scenes stuff as well, because I mentioned with Tracy Lords and Johnny Depp, of course. You've also had Amy Lockhart as well, still in the courts to do with was it like a drunken incident or something, drink driving, really, and that's still going on, really. That's still going on to this very day. I think how many years has she been stuck up with that? I don't know, really, but it's still going on. It's that sort of court case between her and her incident, really. Yeah, that's a pretty decent film, really. If you're a John Waters fanatic, of course, you probably think it's a good film, but it's not as edgy or anything else. I don't know, really. It just depends on you. It depends, really. If you're a Johnny Depp fan, and you haven't seen this yet, give it a watch. See what you think of it. Right, the next one we're going to cover is Want Heart. So this is a David Lynch film. So the first David Lynch film to really cover on movie reviews. I've never really seen much of David Lynch, really. I know about Eraserhead, of course, from 1977. I've seen bits and pieces of Eraserhead, but I've never seen the whole thing fully. I have to eventually. I know he did Twin Peaks, of course. I think the only sort of Twin Peaks thing I knew was the theme, really, because that's something my mum's been playing for many years. It's just an earworm, that song's just an earworm track, sticks with you most of the time. And I thought, maybe give this a watch, really, because it's interesting. It's got Nicolas Cage in, because I remember he was promoting it and he appeared on Wogan. If you ever seen that interview with him with Terry Wogan in 1990, just doing some, doing some weird stuff, like jumping on stage, throwing cash in the audience and stuff, and take his shirt, take his shirt off and stuff like that, being his weird bonkers self, just him shirtless and a leather jacket is interesting. And sort of trying and make something. I think he's trying to make the British audience think, it's like he's a bit of a controversial actor, really. Who knows? So let's go through this. So we've got two. Let's go there. So the film's set in North Carolina, of course, and it follows a man called Sailor, of course, played by Nicolas Cage. Obviously, and he's also fall in love with a girl called Lula, played by Laura Dern, who's Bruce Dern's daughter. If you've heard of Bruce Dern, of course, in his filmography. So these two are in love. Always been in love. I think for many years, actually, because it's been when they were kids, really. I think it sort of goes back onto that, really. And obviously, one thing led to another, and Sailor ends up getting into jail. He ends up punching a black fella in doing a prom day or something like that. I don't, the reason is because Lula's mother wanted to try and assassinate Sailor or try and separate them, really. And so I think he ended up just beating the crap out of this fella, of course, and ended up in prison. That he did, in jail. After a few, I don't know how many years he's been in jail for, but Lulu returns, drives, of course. She comes to pick Sailor up, of course. Gives him his legendary snakeskin jacket, of course, and just And one thing they wanted to do was just escape from everything else and just move ahead. Escape from the mother, which is trying to get rid of Sailor entirely, try and kill him, but end up in jail. of course, and they send after someone to hunt them down, like a private detective, if I'm right about that. But they go up to many places. I think, you know, up and down I think go up north or down south. Really, it just depends. Really, they just go wherever they go. Really, and they end up in some strange situations. Really, you know, you're encountering various characters, of course. You know, over time. Say, Sailor getting involved in a bank robbery as well. You know, like sort of getting involved in that. You know, and also, you know, getting a bit more and more romantic, a bit more sexual, of course, with Lulu, of course. And obviously, as the film progresses, of course, we really, you know, I think the closeness between them two, between Laura Dern and Nick Cage, of course, is like, you know, it's sort of interesting. It is. We get towards half of the film, or towards, you know, towards the end of the film, and Lula says she's pregnant, of course, with Sailor's child, of course. And that point, they're sort of hiding out in this horrible, cheap, grotty motel, really. And Sailor of course, gets the offer to do this robbery, and somehow he sort of gets a bit, he gets set up, really, for it, really. I think they were planning to double cross Sailor during the robbery, just to shoot him and gave her the money, of course. Backfires. He ends up getting arrested, of course. And how many years, of course, passed? Of course, Lula has his child, of course. And when he comes out of prison, it's like there's a bit of a disagreement, of course, and Sailor walks out. You know, so he walks away from Lula and his son. I forgot the name of the son now. I don't know. Don't know really, but he walks out and he gets caught by a gang and ended up being punched in the face and sort of passes out. And then there was some weird imagery, of course. First time seeing a David Lynch film, there was some bizarre imagery. There is. I think towards the end you have this fairy godmother come out. You know, like Sailor's knocked out, and this fairy godmother tells him, you know, you need to go back to Lulu, and you know, and that sort of thing while he's unconscious and everything. Like, you need to go back to her, you know, because you've got a family to raise and everything else. And it's like they all just stumble around him, and of course, and he, you know, goes and wakes up and said, and he just shouts her name, of course, and he goes insane and goes after her, really, like, I need to be with you, Lula. All this sort of stuff, typical Cage stuff. And the ending is a bit you know, like, it's like you end up with something like this weird music video dance number in the end, of course, on top of cars. Like he finds her in a traffic jam, really, and of course, basically, you know, just have like a little ballroom dance on top of a convertible, really, you know, and that's how how it ends, really. To be honest, it's a pretty good film. Consider it's the first David Lynch film I've seen all the way through. It's pretty good stuff. Nicolas Cage, solid stuff, really. Laura Dern, solid stuff. And most of the cast members are really good. They are. You know, you still have like some normal favourites, of course. David Patrick Kelly's in it as well. Yeah. Again, just pretty. You know, there's some memorable actors. Even though I forgot who the actors were in it, I can't remember, unfortunately. But there's some recognisable ones in there as well. So it's pretty good, I have to admit. So that is Wild at Heart from 1990. So Crybaby and Wild at Heart from 1990. One directed by, you know, John Waters and David Lynch. And yeah, it's a bit of an interesting double mix, really, with this one. You know, two couples, but not doing two couples set in whenever, of course, films released in 1990, two different innovative American directors as well. So yes, pretty interesting thing. Thank you guys for watching. As always, see you for the next video, and I'll see you later.